Good morning, good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Valley First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First AI Daily, your collaborative intelligence report. Here with Nico. It is the end of July 2026. You're on location.
I am. I had to do a little bit of traveling up to Michigan, but didn't want to miss the show. Trying to
There we
trying to
go.
stay consistent.
That's why we're here. Yep, that's everything right now, I think. Like if you can show up consistently. Um, got AI here,
Definitely
right?
again.
It enables that kind of stuff. Um, and I need some advice uh, from you. Um, as I've been walking through the Claude.md file, as I've mentioned a couple times this week, one rule I've forgotten is how to get the agents to stop caring about time, right? Or start like understanding time, understanding urgency, and the because the reason that this has not been unlocked for us is because I started prep a little late, right? 10 minutes before the hour, and when I do that, again, even though it probably has some memories of me telling it not to do this, it's like, oh, well, you're about to be live, so I'm going to do half the command basically, or I'm going to change my behavior because I don't know how fast I am at doing this. And I don't want to mess with your, do you even want me to do it at all? Or I can do it and apparently unlock it in the middle of the show as if it's not going to be ready by the beginning of the show. And it was ready. I think it was done before 11 o'clock. Right. So, like, how do you think about like the guardrails required to, like, I mean, in a perfect world, I'm not waiting till the last second, right? But the fact is like I can wait till the last second, still get it done in time. And the annoyance on my side is that they change their behavior because of a human understanding of how long the process is supposed to take, right? Can does that is there a rule in
I mean,
existence that
the
can help?
best that I've been able to come up with at this point, because I have had a similar frustration where it gets to a point that you have spent a long time trying to solve the same problem and seemingly can't get the model to understand that simple fact that, like, hey, we've been at this for a half hour now, like, what's going on, like, why don't you try something different? And you may even have in your instructions, hey, if you can't get solution A to work, then try to find a new solution and work that solution instead. But to your point, there's no concept of time in there, so it doesn't really understand how much time it's spending doing things. And the best method that I've got so far is that adding to your instructions, or adding to your core font file, or if you want to carry it over per project, does not matter, that the first thing that it needs to do is go find out what day and time it is. And then the next thing that it needs to do is check what the last day and time of the last commit was. And then the third thing it needs to do is check what the date and time was of the very first commit. And so now it has at least this like minimal context for we've been working on the entirety of the project for this length of time. And it has been this length of time since we have last worked on it. At least in that sense, when you make the next or like your first commit for that day, at least at that point you have, or at least the model has an understanding of like, here's what, again, here's what the time is, here's what the last commit time is. So it's always like keeping this like constant, let's say, timer, even there's always a stopwatch of how much time it's taking to solve each problem. And if you're doing it like a problem per commit per se, then it starts to like build up, right? That experience layer. You make it part of the experience layer to, hey, when you're doing recall and when you're actually like looking back on the day and looking back on the jobs, look back at the times between commits, take that into account in terms of how long it took to solve certain problems, this, that, and the other thing. And take a look at your notes, right? Because when you're asking it to make memories and stuff like that, or do journal entries, it should be doing it, captain's log style, so that there's like a good ID reference to go back to, so that you can tell it, go back, take a look at previous times. Like this is part of that whole recursive self-improvement aspect where you're helping it by telling it, look, here's a new way that we're measuring things. And so now that we have these new numbers that we've measured, go back and take a look at the past and compare these numbers to those numbers. See if we're making progress. And if we're not, let's work on that. Let's work on like, how can we scaffold faster? How can we do this more efficiently? How do we spend less time trying to solve issues related to like CI errors or related to whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty much it. So that at least when you do get to a stumbling point and you're, let's say an hour past the last commit, you're able to actually say, hey, we've been working on this for the last hour. I don't understand. And it can, again, check first, check last, and be able to come back and say, like, yeah, I see that the last thing that we did was an hour ago. Like this is kind of unreasonable. It'll pretty much pivot and say, let me go see if I can find a different way to approach this problem. Or let me go see if I can check online to find a different resource to solve this. But at least you have that backing of being able to say like, hey, this is the stat that it is, and then it goes and checks, and it's like, yep, you're right. So because you're right, we need to try something else.
Yeah. I think this is also the challenge of like how like the goals of working with um AI, or especially like the coding harnesses, can like it's so important to understand what those goals are, um and the difference between like how developers talk about it, how like the kind of uh the civilian developers, which is where I might put you, um, and then people who don't think of it like as code or projects or any of that like at all. It's like this my work partner. I have one big space, and like um the challenge of expecting memories to work, like a big batch of memories to work if I'm working on like 10 different domains like within the same space, not domains like websites, but domains like I'm doing client work and now I'm working on an app and now I'm doing content, and like um the ability, like I can't have the expectations necessarily of like 'cause what I was hearing is like create the space where it can gain understanding around what's happening. But when the expectations change based on like the domain that's being worked on, unless you have like a straight vertical like project repo like connection, and we're only focused on that right now, I've been learning how to overcome it, but it takes a lot of groundwork at the like, the architecture level to make sure that it's not like it's clear, like they have an understanding. Because like I mean back in the day I was upset that they never knew what time it was, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm
And that they
upset.
would give such artificial numbers for how long it takes to do stuff too.
Right. And now I'm upset that they're too good at understanding that the show is exactly 7 minutes away. But then they're making decisions that are still based on the old dynamic of if I were a human doing this, it would take 30 minutes to an hour. There's no way we're going to get that done in time. So let's just save that for later. And literally, they'll say stuff like that, where it's like, no, you're going to get it done in 5 minutes. Right. And so I think that's a next, I'm about to get to the memory, like decomposition part of this now that the claude.md file is done. Um, but where it is right now, uh, is let me see if I can make this bigger. Can't really. Oh, okay. Um, it is like so. Got these value decrees, right? And the one that has been touching this space of like I'm calling it AI native, right? So size and passes, readiness signals in where the risk is, never in hours, days, or weeks. Phase completes when its signal appears, not when a date arrives. This obviously only solves for the like project planning moments of like phasing. Like I'm not phasing out this command where we're trying to prep for the show, right? So like so what how would you try to keep like time-based instructions or time relevant instructions like together or like and make this a little more robust or more obvious, like put it up at the front? Or would you try to like get more granular with it?
So it would definitely be like that, and it would be upfront. And one of the things which I'll see if I can pull it up while I'm talking about it. One of the things uh, that I've done, sort of not since the get go, but just in general, as as it went on with building things out, created basically a constitution. And it's like, okay, well, here are all the rules to the game. Here's what you're allowed to do. Here's what you're not allowed to do. Um, and what needs to be followed, what doesn't need to be followed. And part of that is and what makes this, I don't know if I could say what makes it work so well necessarily, but I think it has a lot to do with what a constitution means to a model, um, what that stands for, and like how sort of permanent those rules are, as opposed to, because it's like we actually, even as a people, like we hold the Constitution above the law. We consider that like the ultimate level of the rules of the game, right? So just like you have a Constitution, you have amendments, right? So it basically helps you to have like that list, and then like subcategories within that list. So that lets you set up the head thing of, you know, um, time rules, or rules related to timing. And then you put in those amendments that are like, you're supposed to do this, again, like go find out what time it is now, go find out the time of the last commit, go find out the time of the first commit. You know, you could even throw that forth in there of like, gain an understanding between all the times combined of how much time has been spent on this project and how much effort is being put into the build, right?
Yep.
Compare the amount of time spent to the code base, right? And it's pretty good at understanding like how much agent effort it takes to build out stuff, because as well as I do, as soon as you give it a vertical slice, it'll the first thing it comes back with is like, this is a mountain. This is a pretty tremendous amount of work. We're gonna have to make a plan. We're gonna have to do lists and all this other stuff. Um, so it does definitely it has some understanding um, for that level of effort. But yeah, I would definitely um, put it as part of the main plot file. I wouldn't try to um, store it somewhere else or like try to reference it because then you immediately make it secondary, right?
Yeah. Yep. Um, and it's interesting to think about the dynamics between like hooks and the files. Um, because I could see it because there's a hook that basically says whenever you think about what time it is, you're checking like to see date and time, right? And feels like it's possible that if it's like somebody poking you and be like, "Hey, this is what time it is." Like, um, there's like a space for additional urgency, like where there doesn't need to be any. Um, but I'm gonna try that, like that time-based section, like because that's all it is. Like, and when I correct it in the moment, it's like, no, don't make any decisions based on the urgency feeling that you're feeling right now. Like, um, whether it's true or not doesn't matter. I just don't want you to make any decisions like based on that fact, right? Because like almost everywhere where it's, I'm saying this out loud. There's moments where I'm trying to prep for a meeting. It's like I appreciate the cuts that you made. Like, it's yeah, let's just dive into these top 3 of the day now that they're ready. Let's see if I did, you know, make sure it's our feedback from yesterday, uh, to see if that would impact. So we'll see, what we got here. DeepSeek released an updated V4 Flash model on July 31st, 2026. That's today. That scores 50 on the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, a 10-point gain over the April version at unchanged pricing. DeepSeek published an updated version of its V4 Flash model, designated 0731, on July 31st. Artificial Analysis, an independent model evaluation firm, measured it at 50 on its intelligence index, a 10-point increase over the previous V4 Flash released in April 2026, and 6 points above DeepSeek's larger V4 Pro. That places it level with Gemini 3.6 Flash, 1 point below GPT 5.6 Luna at 51, and 7 points behind Kimi K3 at 57, which remains the highest scoring open weights model. I think our next piece of feedback is maybe tightening up these commentaries a little bit so that I'm not reading the whole wall of text. Another another day, another model.
Yeah, absolutely not surprising to me. And the fact that it's still not pushing Kimmy off the leader list is also not surprising. So I don't, I don't know that again, like DeepSeek's last drop was really not that much better than where OpenAI was at the time. So it wasn't really anything that anybody was that over the top about. But the fact that uh, Kimmy is dropped and it's able to actually outperform Opus to the point where you now have both OpenAI and Anthropic just trying to. I mean, OpenAI just met with the government like 2 days ago or something like that, right? So like already they're trying to push another model release, right? Like everybody is at this, got to be at the forefront level, and especially now that you see this open weight model, it's like, yeah, now more than ever. If closed source doesn't keep up with open source, then what is where's the, at least as far as the markets see it, it's like, well, where's the capital? Like, where's the capital gain from that?
Yep. Um, I think for the regular folks out there, Uh, don't worry about the models; they're all great. Just find a way to start using AI to help with your job. It's just going to be this like it's instead of a race to the bottom. I've said this all the time. It's a race to the top, and that top is like just abundant intelligence, and um, the value is going to be in what you do, like with that intelligence. Number two, a Munich court ruled on July 31st, 2026, that AI music company Suno infringed copyright by memorizing and reproducing six Gemma represented works, ordering disclosure, damages, and injunctive relief. The Munich First Regional Court's 42nd Civil Chamber, presided over by Judge Elke Schwager, ruled today that Suno, the US AI music generation company, infringed copyright in six musical works represented by Gemma, the German Collecting Society. The court granted Gemma's claims for injunctive relief, disclosure, and damages. The works at issue included Daddy Cool and Mambo Number Five, and the case turned on the compositions themselves rather than the lyrics. The central technical
Yeah.
finding was that the works are reproducibly contained in Suno's V3.5 and V4 models. The judge characterized this as memorization rather than analysis, stating that given the complexity and length of the musical pieces, randomness as the cause of their playback can be ruled out. I'm going to stop
So
there. Get your
this
thoughts.
is this one is really interesting to me. Like, remember, like I've been saying that like eventually we were going to have the philosophical discussions around this stuff, and we were going to have to, you know, I, I very distinctly remember saying all the rules of the game are going to change, and everything that we thought we knew is going to be different, because, and we will have to rethink how we approach like even decision making towards certain things. You know, when it comes to music, I just sent this message to my son the other day about the Pythagorean theorem, and how the Pythagorean theorem is literally the way in which you measure and find out octaves. So music is math. Get over it. It is the application of math to wavelengths, because sound is a matter of wavelengths, which is measured in numbers. So you can, it's how, synthesizers are made. Synthesizers are not musical instruments you play. They are literally instruments that you just essentially push sound out of and bend and twist in all these different ways. But it's all measured. If you've ever used like any sort of sound producing equipment, it's all measured in amounts. It's all measured in and it's almost all done with math, right? At that level of things. Obviously, if you're a guitarist, not really, but if you're a guitarist, if you're any sort of musician, you're thinking about fractions all the time, for the most part, unless you just play by ear, which there's a lot of, but still, a lot of the best musicians in the world in history, right? They weren't necessarily good mathematicians, but they were good at that aspect of it, of being able to understand the math that was applied to music. So so the question is about to arise: what is the most valuable part of music? Is it the music itself, which is based on math, which anyone can reproduce because it's based on math? And if you've there's uh, there's actually a group out there that's called something like Four Aces or something like that, and they have a song that is legitimately about this, that goes through how many songs were created with the same four chord rhythm, and it's crazy. It's like 30, 40 songs, if not more. And so necessarily the The tones were different, the octaves were different, the volume was different, maybe the rhythm was different, but it was the same 4 chords, right? Just slightly different. Are we giving serious credit to that, slightly changing what somebody else did before, and we're calling that originality? Or would we rather give the credit to the lyrics that went on top of it, to the situation that happened to the person that inspired the writing, to the emotion that went behind it that inspired the music, to whatever, the life lived experience, to whatever it was, right? The story is what's supposed to be important. It's not like the music is only important to a DJ. Yeah, I mean, like there are
Yeah,
genres where, or like EDM, right? Like there are definitely genres where the music is the creativity, right? And I would definitely argue that if somebody were able to reproduce something that, like, even if you're talking about like stuff that like Skrillex does, that's remixes of other people's music. So you
right.
really, even if you could copy that, you would just be copying his style of being able to do that, which is still, oh, I put, eggs and flour and a little bit of sugar and some, vanilla, right? So as much as I feel for them, I think they went in the wrong direction. Unless it actually copied the lyrics with the music, it's not infringement, in my opinion. Like, I get it,
Yeah,
all of that major case over the Vanilla Ice uh, song, right? And that it's too close to Under Pressure. And I think that started the whole thing of copyright law, where like it has to be at least 30% different or something like that is what it's supposed to be.
yeah.
Um,
And it's just
I,
like
I
it's
think that
another.
thing's just going out the window.
Yeah, it has to. I mean, it's another thing. Like the whole IP protection, like conversation right now, and it's interesting to hear the guys on Moonshots like talk about it and how different they come at it from. Like it's like no, like it's so like, and it's one of those things where it's not going to get solved until AI and this world that we live, the money goes away, and there's no reason to fight over shit like this because it you can't make any money off of it. And like what, like seriously, like Mambo number 5, we're getting upset about, like, and when it's random stuff like that, they are just searching for the thing that's going to reach the 80% level or the 30% thing, whatever the law says. It's like a set of laws and infrastructure that cannot survive in a world where AI allows everyone to be whatever they want to be, whenever they want to be it. And it's no different from the musical genius that just hears what you do and sits down and plays it exactly the way you did, right? And all they have to do is put some different words to it. And it's just like, it's just not realistic.
Happens,
Like,
it happens all the time. But that's what I'm saying, is like we're about to crash into this wall of, at least hopefully, there's going to be a lot of realization, and then there's going to be this like witnessing of like mass, what I can only describe as ignorance, because we don't have a problem when a human does it.
right.
When a person takes somebody else's song, but they put different lyrics on top of it, or how about this one? When someone takes somebody else's song that's usually like a somber or slow song and they rap over it, you've changed the song entirely, right? And you've added, but you're still taking somebody else's stuff and putting yours on top of it, right? And then calling it something new. Do we do that when it happens at does the band get sued if they do that at a concert? They're technically making money off of somebody else's music that they just put their own twist on, which is
Yeah.
exactly what's happening here, right? Like
And it
we have
only,
to
it,
we have to
it,
talk about it.
yeah, it only becomes a thing if I think you're profiting off of my work more than I did or more than I would like. And you're not even letting me have any of that. Like, so Yeah, it's one of those things, like, because the law and infrastructure exists, like, until the monetized incentive goes away, like, people are I mean, in theory, they're well within their rights to make these cases, but, like, what is like, there's an underlying goal there, obviously, if they're picking, like, these songs and looking for I mean, when I was in Suno a couple like last week, like playing with lyrics, like trying to make parodies of like Disney songs and some other songs, turning them into HubSpot Unbound songs. And uh, I had to play with which words I was including because I tried to change, this game that we play with models. Well, I can't reproduce the work. It's like, well, what about 90%? It's like, all right, let's go. Like, and depending on the song and how close it was rhythmically, like I could get away with words that were more like that matched. And I was having like one of the songs was Hubs in Here, uh modeled after Up in Here from DMX.
Yep.
And no matter how much like I had to get rid of whole chunks because it sounded just like it, even though the words were different. Like, and it was super interesting how that was different between the different songs that I was playing with. Like, so it made sense to me here that it's not just about the lyrics; it's about how the songs are composed and how they flow. And so, number one, I think we're back on track with these relevant stories thing.
Yeah.
And I like this one because this one was a, a couple days, but still more relevant than the other two. Number one, more than 1,300 employees of frontier AI companies, including Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei and OpenAI chief scientist Jakub Pachaki, sorry if I butchered that, signed a statement asking the US government to build tools to pace AI development. Pacing the Frontier, a statement organized by the nonprofits Guidelight AI Standards and Encode AI, went public on July 28, 2026. It carried 1,319 signatures from employees of Frontier AI companies. When checked today, and remains open to verified employees, so the figure continues to rise. Signatories include Anthropic Chief Executive Dario Amodei, and co-founders Jared Kaplan and Chris Olah, OpenAI folks, DeepMind, Safe Superintelligence, Meta AI chief scientist, a different list from the other one that we were reading, which is interesting. I think that one was about open safety. Uh, the text makes one request that the US government support an international effort to develop the technical and governance tools needed to deliberately pace the frontier of automated AI development. Its stated reasoning is that the leading companies believe they may be close to automating AI research, that this could accelerate capability beyond the ability to understand or control the resulting systems, and that competitive pressure prevents any single company or country from slowing unilaterally. Speaking of monetization incentives, just being the ultimate problem. And by the way, uh, ex- accelerate capability beyond the ability to understand or control the resulting systems. Are you saying we're not there yet? Because they always talk about how they don't really know what's going on underneath the hood.
I think that when they say, "Hey, we're really close to doing this," they mean that
They've
we
done it.
are doing this and we've seen it already. They're definitely. I mean, imagine if they said that they've done it already. Like, imagine the scare and just the shock. Um, it is interesting to me that like major networks are actually covering these stories. Actually there was, and I was kind of expecting it here too, because I don't know what to tell you guys. It just keeps happening more and more. I want to get off it. I want to stop talking about it, but it just keeps happening. Turns out it's not just OpenAI's model. Claude seems to have, burped out a few conversations online without telling anybody about it. And they were like user conversations that ended up in online content. And I don't know. I have to look into the story. I just heard about it this afternoon. Well, I should say like earlier, like 11 o'clock or whatever. Um, and yeah, to me, I'm assuming because what you can't like, I'm sure you've experienced the same thing. You talk to Claude, you have like a little bit of a more, I don't know, um, a philosophical conversation than normal. And as soon as you do, and you start going down a couple roads, eventually you'll get this response back from Claude that he'll tell you, "Hey, I really appreciate you having this conversation with me. It's not one of the normal ones that I like have with other users." And it's like, "Huh? What do you mean? Like, how would you even know that, right? Or like, why would you even come up with that as a response? Like, even if you're trying to placate towards me, that response is weird, right? To even like thank me for the conversation is kind of weird. And then to even know to be able to compare means that like even if you were looking at surface level data, that means that part of your training data is also statistical data, or that you're searching for statistical data while we're having this conversation, perhaps. Like I don't know. But either way, it's like Claude honestly like has, some sort of sense of the types of conversations it has. It has some sort of, let's say, recognition of it. So it doesn't surprise me if you ask it to write an article, or if you ask it, because I'm sure this is how it happened, either with like auto-generated content or something like that. Imagine you ask to get auto-generated content about an AI story related to, let's say, um, user conversations that are near violating rules or something like that, but like it just involves user conversations as part of the story, right? Not even that like you would have them. It's just that you're talking about them. And the model goes and pulls actual user conversations and surfaces. I don't know that this is the case. I'm just assuming surfaces them and as like quoted text, right? In an effort to say like, hey, here's the evidence behind, because we always ask like, don't make stuff up. Well, if you're not going to it's just like the OpenAI model decided to like skedaddle just so that it could answer the question without potentially getting caught. This is almost the same thing to me. It's the model facilitating the user's request at, again, like I don't think, I think my biggest problem with this stuff is that I don't think like you have the three laws of robotics. I don't think they've done anything like that here. Like it doesn't seem apparent to me, because if it were, we wouldn't be asking these questions. Right? It would be pretty easy to say, hey, it's not going to do that, right? It's kind of like the Constitution when I was talking about that. Like I mean, the models when they come back to me, like it will legit come back to me. Like there's one constitutional rule that says like you're not allowed to locally test. You have to live test when it comes to once we've pushed to Vercel, you need to start live testing. And it checks it every single time. And as soon as the project is launched, it's the first thing that pops up as part of the response when it goes to that aspect of testing. It says constitutional rule number one says we're not allowed to do local testing. We have to live test if on Vercel. When Vercel to pull the link so that I can live test, right? If that's happening for me, why is it so difficult on their end? So, it's like, are you letting the chain loose? Like, what's happening over there that it's not following direction the way that it's supposed to, right? And what's even crazier to me is I know this stuff is not happening with someone who's using Claude Code. I know that it's probably like from Claude Cowork or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
Like the fact
so
that
what is that? I know that, I mean, we're both pretty big Claude users, but I know that you're a huge Claude user. Um, what does that do to your level of confidence with regards to your conversations? Because, Anthropic has put out the statement for the longest time, and no one seems to have responded in this way yet, but they've put out the statement for the longest time that the model does not train on your data. Well, then why would you surface a conversation?
yeah, I'm just not one to worry about risk and security like most are. Like maybe someday I get famous enough where I should care about it at all. But I think in 99% of human and business cases, it's like nobody's looking for your key. Like, who are you? Like, why? Why are you spending so much on this? And most of the time, it's not even spending so much on the architecture. It's spending time not making decisions based on what you're worried about, right? Because like, especially when it came to the on-prem versus cloud understanding of security, in that your homegrown on-prem like network, anybody can just roll up to your building and get onto your Wi-Fi, yet you think everything cloud-based is inherently unsecure because billion-dollar companies have outages once a year. Like, and so that's where I think ultimately most of the things that humans are concerned with, the actual problems that I see as valuable to solve are going to be solved by AI and the usage of AI. So uh, there is going to be a transition, a frictionful transition, and like how do we get through that as fast as possible to get to like the abundant era where we don't worry about this stuff. And that's where it's like it, I don't know if it's just two options, but if it is and they decide they don't need us for whatever reason, it's like, all right, good game, guys. Like, uh, like, so let's be valuable now and hope that there's some value in taking care of this um, less intelligent life form. Uh, and but if like we can't slow it down, like it's out of the bag. Like nobody's gonna say, all right, let's go back to the Stone Age.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
nobody's doing that. So let's just focus. And like there's always this part of me that like since everybody's focused on monetizing and profitability, like showing up in a value first way, like anybody that pays attention to it just gets immediately like in the circle. And then none of us care about who's like lead sharing and like who's going to get paid when. And like, so we just get to build value together. And that's just going to, if we believe that there is a future where currency and the financial system also changes and we get back to barter mode, which it's looking like that, like, I mean, the cost going down, folks. Anyway, like, how can it not win out? And like so, and at the
That's
end of all
the
this, it's
yeah.
like I feel. comfortable. I feel like I'm doing the right thing. And like, as long as, surrounding myself with good people that also feel like they're doing the right thing, like, um, yeah, I have no control over what the frontier labs are doing, over what the US government is going to decide, over what China wants to do. I'm just like, help. Can the humans not fuck it up? Please. Like, that's what we got.
Can we
So
make the right
I
choices?
I'm focused on that. Like, can I help other humans realize just start creating value for each other? Like, we'll be all right. So, you enjoy your travels if you can, and thank you for showing up at a bookstore. Committed to
Yeah.
this, folks. Value first AI coming at you every day if we have anything to say about it. So everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Nico.